Welcome back. We're here to talk about Saturday's Premier League match between Tottenham Hotspur and Stoke. Pascal, Tottenham started the new Premier League season with a 1-0 defeat to Manchester United. What do you make of their performance?
Well, it was a really tough opening fixture, wasn't it? Going to Old Trafford, really, really difficult. But, they started the game well, didn't they? They had that really good chance where Kane, brilliantly invented pass, scooping it over into Eriksen. His first touch with his head was fantastic, and then his side foot, lob, really unlucky, just went over the bar. So that was very unfortunate. They could have easily led that game, and from then United start to come back into the game a bit more. But the goal that won the game was very unlucky from a Spurs point of view. They got it a bit exposed at the back. Bentaleb, I think, gave it away, a bit of a careless pass, and then it comes into Rooney, and I think Rooney probably should have just finished it first time instead of taking the touch, but then takes the touch, and then Walker comes in and diverts it into the net. It's very unlucky, but from that point on, Spurs didn't create too much. Their best chance was that Eriksen one early on, and I saw people saying it's just a bit too Spursy the way they played. They matched one of the best teams in the league for long periods, but they just didn't quite have enough to get back into the game. And in the end, it's a defeat. And those are the sort of games they need to be winning if they want to get into the top four, really.
Yeah, or at least getting points out of, because they played quite well in long spells. And it was, for other top four teams, it might have been quite a worry the way they started the match, because they were passing slick. They were the better team for the opening stages. The big question surrounding Spurs, as it has been for the last few seasons, is are they good enough to bridge that gap to the top four? They've fallen short so often in recent seasons, not since the Harry Redknapp days have they got into fourth. Are they good enough this season? I think it's going to be such a competitive battle again. There wasn't much between 5th and 7th last season, and there wasn't too much between to Manchester United for 4th. If you take David De Gea out of United's team, they probably wouldn't have been in the top 4, so that's another place up for grabs, and I think it's going to be even more competitive this time around. Tottenham will be right in the mix, I think. I think they showed enough signs in the United game that when they're playing well, they can do very well. But can they play well for the whole season? That's been their biggest problem the whole time. Again, I don't think they're good enough. I think they'll fall just short again this season.
I think personally this season at the top four, those top four sides, United, Chelsea, City and Arsenal, I think they're further away from Liverpool and Spurs. So I think, if anything, Liverpool and Spurs might be more looking over their shoulder, because you look at the other teams below that are trying to get into do what Southampton did last year. Swansea looked good, they had a great result last weekend. Palace, Stoke, those sort of teams. Everton should be a bit better this season. So I think Spurs, if anything, the worries from behind them rather than trying to get ahead. I think they need to just focus on solidifying 6th place this season, or 5th or 6th, I should say. But as for Stoke, they started their weekend. It was a tough game for them as well, wasn't it? At home to Liverpool, and I think it was quite a sort of similar game as, well, not similar as Spurs and United, but a very even game. Spurs United was even for long periods, and I think Stoke, they matched Liverpool for long periods of that. Liverpool, I think they had more of the ball, but they didn't do too much with it. As for Stoke, they just couldn't quite, get enough. They couldn't quite break Liverpool down, and in the end, it was a bit of magic from Coutinho. Whereas, Spurs lost for an unlucky own goal. Stoke, they lost through a magical goal from Coutinho. Absolutely fantastic strike from him, and not too much you could do about that. But Stoke, they would have wanted to have scored before that to have put the game to bed, really.
Yeah, you mentioned a bit of lack of creativity with Stoke there. They'll be hoping Xherdan Shaqiri, new club record signing, solves that. It's a huge coup for the club, I think. It was only a couple of seasons ago Liverpool were after him. £12 million, they're shelling out the cash. A few seasons ago when they got rid of Pulis, I was worrying for them, because I always think with managers like Pulis, Allardyce, you might regret getting rid of them, but Hughes has done such a good job, and this transfer window they've had is just taking them onto a new level. I think they, as you mentioned, they'll be pushing the likes of Tottenham and Liverpool, and no higher than that, I don't think, but I think they'll be pushing for European football, because the squad they've got now, they've got so many skillful players, and the likes of Bojan. Look, he missed the second half of last season. If he stays fit for the whole campaign, and if Shaqiri rediscovers his form from last year's World Cup and from his Bayern Munich days, a bit of a flop up into Milan, but I think he could be a huge success at Stoke. I think it's a fantastic signing for them.
Yeah, I think people are always sort of focusing now on Bojan, Shaqiri coming in, Arnautovic is a bright player on the right, on the wing, but I think you can't forget about Shawcross, his importance. He's now out for 2 months. That sort of didn't get mentioned too much, and although they defended pretty well for large periods against Liverpool, all they lost to was a fabulous goal from Coutinho. I think his loss in this first 2 months, it could be really big for them, because he's their real stalwart of the back, fantastic defender back there. I mean, it's surprising. That there's not been that much interest from sort of bigger clubs in Shawcross the last sort of 2-3 seasons since he's become one of the best Premier League defenders. But I think his absence certainly could be massive for them.
So both sides looking for their first point. What's your prediction for the match?
I think it's a really tough game to call. Stoke, you've mentioned how good their signings have been, how good a transfer window they've had. It's not quite been the same story for Spurs, and I think Spurs, they had some really poor results at home last. I think they lost to Stoke at home last season, so I think this could be quite a tight game. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw.
Yeah, they actually lost home and away to Stoke last season, so Stoke maybe have their number, and Stoke have improved more than Spurs have, so it is going to be an interesting game. I think I'd agree with the 1-1 draw with that one, so we're both going for draws. Thanks for joining us.